Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the Set Files. Today I have a guest with me. I'll soon let him introduce himself, and we'll talk about a very interesting topic that we kind of found together. So please, Caspar, describe a little bit about who you are and your company and what you do in your everyday life.
It's good. Hi guys, I'm Caspar Ter Horst. Most people just know me as Caspar. I'm one of the co-founders of Product IP. I'm built in '66, born in Holland, married, living in the Netherlands, but my basis took me all over this planet, from Europe to manufacturing sites in the Far East since 1995. Been involved in product compliance more than purely product quality. Actually, from day one after I left the technical high school in the Netherlands in '88. I'm co-founder of Product IP. We're managing together with Maarten van der Dussen, the other founder, a team of 40 people. And we try to help companies in retail and trade to prevent hassle with authorities, hassle with customers, hassle with consumers and other stakeholders around the products that they sell. Our slogan is, we believe in a world where you can trust a product. And I think the focus is on everything that you cannot eat, that doesn't eat by itself, and it doesn't grow. So it's a different world. Yeah.
Okay. So do you work primarily in within the EU or all over the world with compliance?
No, we primarily work in the EU. Not having said that, it doesn't mean that the solution product IP that we've created 12 years ago cannot be used for other regions. But we focus on the EU, and the reason for that lies simply in the legal basis of the European framework around product compliance. There's an entire structure being built up. Probably at the same time when we wanted free trade and free movement of goods and services, we gave back responsibilities to the market. We built a framework, and I think the good thing about the framework is that we do realize that things might go wrong, and that consumer goods are consumer goods. It's not those pens that hold engines to airplanes, and it's not critical parts of nuclear power plants. Following that framework means that you have done what you should have done, and makes you not liable in case something goes wrong. Doesn't mean that you don't, as a company, don't have the responsibilities to help clean things up, but you're not liable. There's no neglect, and I like that in the framework. So it's a clear game for both sides, for the government, for the market surveillance authorities as well, which is completely different than for other markets. We often said if we would do what we do in Europe, in the US, we will probably dragged into the first lawsuit a couple of minutes later, and have a very difficult time to explain that it's not our fault at a very high cost. That's why you see that third-party testing is so relevant, for example, for the US market. A company called Underwriters Laboratory, UL. Underwriters means insurance company, and laboratory is a lab. That's why they're so tough, because they insure your risk, you know.
Okay. So is that how it works there? That the UL takes you give them the liability of when something goes wrong, or?
I think in America it's always a struggle, but at least if you follow their rule book, there's no neglect. But don't underestimate that rule book. It's tough, you know. Yeah. It involves it's like a notified body scheme in Europe for the highest level of products, with certified components, certified plastics, certified labels, with mandatory pre-audit labels for certain product categories, so there can be no fraud. In general, for markets where there is a high risk for companies, just from not only from a legal point of view, but also from a business cash flow point of view, I would always go for third-party testing. In Europe, I wouldn't go for third-party testing, not necessarily to sell my product, but mainly as part to gain trust from other B2B partners, or just to get very good and independent results. The role of approval marks in the European market has diminished towards consumers. Most consumers probably will know Semco and Emco and Demco and Vimco, but not necessarily find those relevant when you buy a product. But when you ask them, do you know where it stands for? They're probably right. But if you ask them, are you looking for those when you're going to buy a product? They probably say no. So so our life at this moment is, from a business point of view, is serving companies that deal with the EU market, including Norway, including Switzerland, including Turkey, that all kind of countries that follow that regulation. So the customers are everywhere, global, but the goods end up here.
Okay. Yeah. And you do also, I mean, you have the platform for compliance, and then you have also consultancy on the side, or are you primarily working on the platform? Is that your core?
Yeah. We love customers, but we don't like them to call us. We run a software as a service. We interact with very large customers to streamline their processes, but we like to divert customers to consultants when it comes to very specific areas, like, for example, machinery or very complex medical equipment or toys. There are many consultants about that, and sometimes you need to spend hours with a company to get them going. We run software as a service. So people call us for getting a training on the platform, but we even want them to find the things out themselves and do it online. Otherwise, our business model is screwed. Then we growing exponentially, and we have exponential cost and support, and that's not the case, luckily, this moment. The team that we do have, one part is a team that does label checks. We've become market leader on the checking of content of artwork on products, packaging, and manuals. It's really exploded. It makes sense for companies to do that. It's flaws in artwork is low-hanging fruit for market surveillance authorities. They know that in 60 to 70% of the products where something is obviously wrong on the outside, something will be wrong on the inside, because it's a sign of organized ownership. So that's what we do. And we have a team in Shenzhen and managed by two in Hong Kong. Originally planned to be support for users of the platform, cooperating with companies in the Far East, but very soon became an overflow secretariat office for people that want support when looking at documents, verifying authenticity. But that team has not grown exponentially. It should be in the interest of companies and supply chain partners to be able to do things themselves. If you are a factory and you claim to your customers that you are the number one teddy bear manufacturer of the world, you don't know diddly-do about manufacturing teddy bears, then your customers should say bye-bye to you and find another one. The deeper you go into the supply chain, the more specific their knowledge should be, and they should not have a problem to prove that. And but there will be a peak somewhere when people start and how to get things going, or they move into a new direction, and that's when we support them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that kind of touches the topic that we briefly discussed before. Well, that we wanted to have this the interview about.
Yeah.
And we, as a short summary on that, new products, new suppliers, and new challenges, basically. You mentioned this was actually before the summer. You mentioned that you've seen a rise in the change of behavior from people that where they spend their holidays differently, meaning that they use other kinds of products, and this means also that there are new companies that go into this field and have a tendency to meet new challenges, basically.
Yeah, I think that's actually it's a good sign. It's entrepreneurial to look at the world as continuously changing. And when people start to have their holidays at home, they most likely want to have a small swimming pool, to give you an idea.
Yeah.
Or or a nice garden set outdoor, or other things. Or when more people start to stay at home and camp, you need camping gear. So you see a number of things. Because there's also a renewed interest in all kind of outdoor games, but there's also interest in products that are related to keep you healthy in home fitness, but also home spa, to treat yourself very nicely, and this can result in things that you can, turn your bath into a hot tub or to a massage bath or to even all kind of cosmetics products.
Yeah.
So you see existing products brought to the market by companies for whom those products are new, but they might have find a supplier that is used to those products. Or you might find companies asking their existing suppliers if they would like to step into these products. Okay, then you have a new supplier, existing supplier with a new product for everybody. But to be honest, in most cases, it will be an entirely new supplier with a completely new product for them, and a new customer as well. And and there's pressure because it needs to go right, and we are in a hurry because we didn't plan it. So it's a good recipe for things to go wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's a classic. I mean, supply and demand case where there might be suppliers that have these products already, so it's not an entirely new product, but it's new for this specific supplier. Okay, so let's say we're talking to this new supplier or this team of a supplier and customer. What do they need to think about when they enter this new field, if you say?
Yeah, I think there's always three kind of things. The classic way is that somebody says that they know everything, but the other one doesn't know what everything is and think that everything should be everything that they'll send to them. So we want to get rid of that. The first aspect is to establish a kind of a benchmark of what everything should be when it comes to product compliance. Because not necessarily there are aspects related to the product itself, but also when you start to enter the market, are there any business obligations? If we would be a furniture company and we start drilling holes in our furniture and putting key charges in there, we suddenly become a producer of electronics, and we need to participate in recycling schemes. So there might be all kind of obligations that you need to consider, and that influence cost, but also route to market. So when we started Product IP, we know that this is the main struggle of companies to quickly find out what is relevant. But all these regulations and directives have essential requirements. And for most products, when you are in this field and you look at them, you can realize these products will touch those essential requirements in these directives. That's what we have done already. So you go to Product IP, you type in power bank, you choose the countries that you want, then you choose the date that you want to enter the EU market, and voila, within a minute you have a requirement list that shows which regulations will be touched. Are there any harmonized standards? And then for you, some of those harmonized standards are related to the design of the product. So in this early sourcing stage, you would expect that a company you deal with already has evidence against those harmonized standards for the design of the product. That might not be for the new design they propose to you, it might be for a similar design, but quite recently. So you want to create a confidence. Hey, this guy knows what he's doing. This is the business that he's in. He's involved in this kind of electronics, this kind of furniture. There's a lot of aspects that prove that he knows the design aspects of this range we're getting into. At the same time, different part of the market, it shows you some obligations that you probably will need to fulfill as an organization when you actually step into this market. Registration for electronics recycling, maybe when you go into cosmetics, you need to give up your recipe somewhere in a database of Europe. This is for energy, all kind of business obligations that you need to consider. When that supplier says, oh, these standards are actually all new for me, not necessarily you say bye-bye, but you know that you're still far away from a start, because this is probably the first time their design will be tested. And they have no experience to prepare for that. If you are in the market of coffee makers and you make a new coffee maker, what are the chances that your new coffee maker will pass? Maybe has one or two minor issues, but this will be a smooth sailing. But if this guy has made T-shirts and says, "Yeah, I've been a T-shirt manufacturer for 10 years, and now I'm going to make coffee makers," okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a quite new topic.
It's quite new, and sometimes that is the area. So I would say in product IP, these are the A list of requirements. These are based on the design of the products. Then when you got confidence about that, and you probably say, okay, how relevant are those existing test results for my product? Has this manufacturer any idea about, can we reuse them, or are we starting from scratch? Although I know he knows what he's doing, but in terms of cost and lead time, has he already verified with some of the TICs like TUV or SGS or Intertech or BV? Does he have quotations? Then we have an idea of our time schedule to market. And then it's up to you and your supplier to make a decision who's going to pay for that test. If he's going to pay for it, then he owns the end results and he can reapply them for future variations of your model. If you say, no, that's really want to be my design, you can say, I want you to arrange everything, but I'll pick up the bill. I'm the applicant. I just want you to send the samples. Right. In parallel of that, you are starting to collect information about the materials that are used in the product, the components, like cables, switches, chemicals, paint, because that's probably for him the second tier of their first tier supplier, but for you your second tier. Will he be able to get detailed information about the plastics, the paints, the glues that he's using? If not, this faces you a challenge to release the final production, because you probably have a lot of chemical tests again and again and again, just to verify that you comply with things like REACH or RoHS directive or food contact materials. So it's worth to start to emphasize on collecting details at that moment. It will mean a more smoother sailing when production starts to run. That's basically the steps. It is important, this Q&A and the answers that you get, because you're probably not likely to visit the factory to do an audit. It might be not even feasible for you to hire a third party to visit the factory at this moment. So it's really a matter of starting to build up trust, and I'm a big fan of that,
Yeah, and it's I recognize what you're saying when you're talking to an importer, for instance. Let's say that the importer has found a supplier in China and wants to import this product, and if they say that, well, we have everything, we have the CE mark, everything, we have the declaration conformity and so on, well, that's good, of course, but you always end up with when I am the importer, I also have liability myself, so I need to cover my own back to have all the confidence with my supplier, and basically I say to my customers that you will do best to have the technical file in your hand before you put something on the market.
Right. The reason is very simple. You should be able to verify if mass production complies with regulations as well. If you do not have a good bill of material, if you do not have a golden sample, or if the golden sample that you have has any marks on any printed circuit board or any part that is related to time and date, you are looking at a random puzzle. And you cannot apply statistics to chaos. You can only do 100% testing to chaos, or what my advice would be, don't do any testing, put the money in a bank called insurance, and pray. So
when you're saying a golden sample, what is that? What do you mean by that?
Well, it is quite naturally that factories, when they submit samples to a test institute, even if you are the applicant on your behalf, get a copy of one of those. Get one sample to you from that same batch, or 2 or 3. So when you have the sample, you not only be able to verify colors, but you can verify weight. What is the weight of each part? The part of the housing, the part of this, because if the weight changes, then something has changed. Yeah? Somebody's making money on saving cost. You cannot cut through each ladder to see if the material thickness is the same, but it's very cheap to compare weight.
Yeah,
and it's
that's a really good advice, I think.
Yeah.
As I've understood or I've learned, is that you need to separate from the sample that you receive, the prototype, from the series manufactured product.
Yeah.
You need to at least consider that they might be different.
Right.
When you're working directly with a known large supplier, maybe in EU, you can be fairly confident that the product will remain the same due to culture maybe. But working with smaller or long distance suppliers, you might need to think about this once more before.
Right. And also what is relevant, if you need to get a bill of material from that supplier on key elements, and then they write housing, plastic. What is plastic? Have you ever tried to buy plastic? You cannot buy plastic. You need to specify plastic. Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, what do you mean you don't know? You calculated the cost. I worked at a factory. We supplied millions of plug-in timers for IKEA worldwide. I bet you we knew what kind of plastic we were using, where we got it from. And this part is glued to that part. Okay, where is the glue on the bill of material?
Exactly.
And where did you buy that glue? Do you have a MSDS? Then you have a safety data sheet of that glue. Then they say we don't have it. Oh, that's interesting. You have a BSCI approval of your factory? Yeah, okay. Check the BSCI approval report of the latest audit. One of the clauses says we'll check the chemical storage in the factory. And one of the questions is, are the safety data sheets clear, visible on the outside of the chemical storage? Yes, they are. Okay. So tell me, where are they now for my product? Do you want me to contact BSCI and void your BSCI license? Because then you cannot supply to anybody. Chemical legislation is the crossing of social compliance and product compliance, and many people don't realize that. That is your leverage. Because even if you are a small customer for the factory, they don't want to lose all customers because they lose their social compliance status, right?
That is very interesting to use that as a leverage.
Even in large companies, if you are the QA QC department, sometimes you might feel that you are somewhere in the basement of the whole company, struggling to, in the opinion of the rest of the company, struggling to organize paperwork. But that's not the case. And somewhere in the company, somebody owns, probably connected to the directors, the social compliance agenda, because it's more sensitive and it's more open in the newspapers, and NGOs are likely to put some salt in a wound when it's really start to hurt. So you just make it their problem. I said, I have here a supplier. You have authorized him for our company. He cannot supply any information about the chemicals he's using in the product. That's odd because the latest BCI audit says it is. I'm putting this supplier on hold till you solve this for me. All right, now you see what's happening. And I think that is also a proof that you cannot do anything alone. You can also not do the business side alone with the compliance side. You can only improve on product compliance when there is business. The flow of money makes it possible for companies to change things. And if you are in a seasonal company with, summer articles or Christmas articles, if you're in Christmas articles, how many times a year you have the chance to change your supply chain? Well, I can tell you, every year, one time Christmas. If you are in fashion industry, It's continuously business, so you can continuously grow. I also don't like, sometimes it's necessary, but to say bye-bye to suppliers because they're not compliant. You need to ask them, same as for your own internal, where can you improve? How long does it take? What is your plan? Give me up to date. And we often see people in discussion about, my supplier doesn't know anything about ROS. Come on, guys, this is 16 years ago. Seriously? Is this really internal allowed in a company to talk like this about suppliers at the coffee machine? That is a serious problem within that company. It is not a problem to buy products that just look like products. So why is this golden sample relevant? If it's not a prototype, but somehow a prototype, and you open it up, and you have a bit of material, and you have a drawing, an exploded fuel drawing, and you look at it and you say, I have no idea which part is actually which part except from the drawing. I have printed circuit boards without any time or date or version. I have plastic parts without a clock when it was produced. There's no cost in putting that dial into a plunger of a tool, of an injection tool. There's no cost. It's just pure stupidity of a manufacturer not to do it. Why you want to kill traceability at that level, right? So the reality is that it's like that. But if you can become the teacher pointing out, listen, the next time you start to open the tooling, start to put those dials in the plunger, then we at least know when these parts are produced, when we are looking at it, when things go wrong. We hope not, but at least we can start, hey, interesting. The moment we have this plastic parts after this date, we see things go wrong. Maybe the plastic was changed, maybe the material, maybe the machine was out of calibration, maybe we have a new QA manager. These kind of things, the principle of this QA QC is information. Because if you get production and there is no information, any traceability of any parts, how do you want to do an assessment on when thing goes wrong? Well, again, I'm looking at chaos. And focusing on killing that chaos is not cost. You don't talk about approval cost or testing cost. It's manufacturer efficiency. It's being lean and mean. And from a supplier point of view, if they just have one glue supplier and the glue is critical, why you don't have 2 or 3? And how many suppliers these days have critical parts that they buy from other suppliers, like adapters or cables or connectors? Where is the production code on these parts? Listen, guys. So it's like domino stones that you let drop into the supply chain. Can you be patient? Yeah, I think you can be patient, but there must be change, and it must improve. And lack of change and lack of improvement means that you will start to look for other people because they are not busy mitigating their risk. And somewhere in this Corona crisis, you need them again for a new product, and you will point out to them that they will not be the partner for this future product because simply, as one of my big friends always said, you are on the too difficult pile. You are on the too difficult pile, and it took a long time to come on there. But now you get to get off it. It's trouble. So
it's again a bit of a leverage you have your own risks as the company that puts the product on the market, and you need to mitigate those as best you can. And if you could, what we're saying here is that you can kind of accept some flaws. If you've recognized that the suppliers are actually willing to change, willing to work with it, mitigate those risks and flaws.
Yeah, there's one thing as well, Robert. On those flaws that you can accept, some of them in the what we call in the B2 or B1 category in product IP, these are actually missing parts of information that you can solve by spending money. The supplier has used paint and he has no idea if there's any heavy metals in the paint. Okay, that's not a problem. We'll test it and we know it. However, if you don't know it the next time, we're fucked again. Excuse my language. We're going to waste money just simply because you don't buy paint from somebody who knows what paint is. Stop doing that, because we are running into test and test again. It's always last minute. It's costly. The TIC loves you. You're welcome. Come to my test house again. It's a waste of money. Yeah, and what you want to do is you want to run those tests merely as spot checks. You want to behave like a market surveillance authority and said, in general, I trust you. I trust the information. I see that you're a professional. There's a lot of traceability. This feels that when shit hits the fan, you'll be able to solve it. But nevertheless, I will do some spot checks, because in the whole world of things, I need to do spot checks to protect my own liability. And that's true. Large retailers even take samples from their stores and submit them for test, which is the ultimate end of the supply chain. Yeah, but Robert, it's mandatory. It's mandatory to do it, but that doesn't mean that people do it. Because it is the complete proof. It has gone through everything. It's purely random. It has even did the inspection when the goods arrived at the warehouse. Somebody put it in the shelf. That is the ultimate test, right?
It's the ultimate end product.
But can you envision if that would be the only test that you would do? How much cheaper would that be if rather than test everything that leaves factories? I rather would have that spot check at the end in my own rhythm than I need to monitor everything that goes in, because that is not feasible for most companies. There's too many products, too many pressure, not enough time, not enough specialism on that. So the biggest thing when companies start to use product IP is that they start to realize that they are actually already know from which suppliers they need to part. But they simply never had the courage to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And
interesting. Yeah, it's a really, I think it's you've mentioned a lot of nuggets here for the listeners when it comes to the new products. I mean, we of course knowing the requirements of a product.
Yeah.
Number one, and then getting. I mean, are you an importer? Make sure that you get as much information as you can beforehand.
Sure.
To match according to the requirements, and then as you mentioned the golden sample. If you have a supplier that does send your product to a test lab, well, you could have them send the same product to you, so you can have that as a
or more than one.
More than one, yeah.
Yeah, because actually maybe one you want to keep at your office. Often you see that you share one with your inspection office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can keep an eye on the products that are coming in, just to do some spot checks and visible. Just check it out. Does it look the same? Does it feel the same? Is it the same product?
Yeah.
Or has something changed? And if you can see something that has changed, then it's you need to dive in deeper, basically.
Right, and you don't need to be an engineer to check the weight on a part.
No.
It doesn't require a lot of skills to check if the other one has the real skills. You just need to have, I don't know, it's called farmer smart. You just look at things and just, really? Is this the golden sample? This is a mess.
Yeah.
If you already feel that this is a mess, then ask them why it is a mess.
Yeah.
And
because basically what you get when you ask for a prototype, you will get, the premium, because then they will make sure that you're happy with what you get.
Sure.
And if you're not happy, then it's a red flag going up.
Right. And if you have a good supplier, he actually will tell you, I'm sending you the prototype. This is not the one that we will send to the test lab. I will send you that later. If you get the prototype, don't look at this and this and this part, because it's just temporarily. We just glued it together.
Yeah.
But we will use that. All right. Now I start to like him. Now I start to like this.
Yeah, that's a good way to handle it. Yeah, definitely.
And then at the same time, if you are on the receiving end, now probably you can also look at the packaging. will this packaging cause me as a retailer or e-tailer problems? Are there a lot of plastic parts in this packaging that I need to monitor? Is it glued together, stapled together? Are there styrofoam parts in there that actually are a chemical risk? Or packaging material is cost as well, Can I use the packaging as an assistant for when people need to mount something on a wall? Can I have drill holes in there or template? I often look at the market and I really feel, why are others in the market not look at what competition is doing? This is not new, okay? To have the drilling holes on a carton box. How many times, Robert, have you looked at something that you need to mount on a wall and said, why the hell didn't they have a template?
Yeah.
I often wonder,
why the hell? The measurements are like 25.8 millimeters, something like that.
25.8, right. Yeah. These guys never been at IKEA? So, you think that as a consumer, I think it as a consumer. These are the things that people as a consumer either will talk about when it's negative, and we feel pleasantly surprised when it's well done. And there's, again, many of people in the business are not their own customer. And as product IP, I'm very lucky that our team is using product IP to support the customers. But to be honest, some of the ideas that we come up with Friday already changed on Tuesday again, because it seems, if this moves a little bit there, or this, it becomes even better. It's never perfect, but you need to look at the real world and think, how are others, not necessarily in your industry, how are they solving things that have to do with maintenance, with manuals, with clarity, and being your own customer. That was where we were. Robert, one of the things that we noticed when people start to change their business is that they forget that when you are an importer or brand owner, and obviously in this world you probably move across multiple countries, that they are running into all kind of business obligations. Even if you sell via the internet, sometimes you need to register at recycling schemes, or these things take time. There is some cost involved, but it is necessary to do. Not necessarily that there is cost involved actually to participate, because you might be under a threshold in certain countries. But to not register and participate in WEEE, for example in Germany, could result in you getting letters from competition in Germany saying that you are not taking part in fair trade, so to say. You'll be sued for that. And this is written in many of the new legislations, that companies among each other can take the money from unfair business practices and get the profit. Don't underestimate that. I think it's part of the cost of doing business. I know from large e-tailers that team that takes care of WEEE, packaging directive, battery directive, all kind of registrations, that is really taking part of 4 or 5 people when they are selling in 21 countries. This also requires you to have certain data from your suppliers. Because you are submitting that data, and the government can verify that data, not necessarily in the same moment that you are selling the product. For them, it's very smart. It's like doing your taxes, and then you get a check on your taxes 4 years from now. So they're separating the point in time from the need to verify your product compliance with the time that they have time to check if you really did product compliance. And I think that's good. Some of those questions are silly for you, but it's not silly, because to get that information, you need to dive deep into your supply chain, and you stick your neck out, and you need to participate. And then 3 years later, they do an audit and they say, "Hey, where is this?" And that is why some people ask us, this product IP, this whole procedure, that's quite cumbersome. I need to first do A and then B and C. I need to log everything in there. Why is that? Because it's there to protect you. It's like doing bookkeeping with a pencil and an eraser. You cannot do that. You need to with an eraser. You need to prove that the process is there. It's not a problem to make a flaw, but you need to register this was a flaw, it was corrected, blah blah blah. And we have built a flow and a process that is built on the foundation of legislation. And that's why you can use Excel and email and notebook to do product compliance. Yes, but it's not that process. You can because if you use product compliance and you use an Excel sheet and you send it to me and I share it and I modify it, where's the modification history?
And as you mentioned, it's a lot of the CE marking regulation comes down to you proving what you've done, what the current situation is, what the past was, and how it will look in the future.
Right, and how likely is that question comes now to the team that's working now on the product, or how likely is it that it is in 2 years' time? Yeah, we have ever had Lars Wallström at one of the seminars of Product IP. He was one of the key communication managers for IKEA when it came to product compliance. And during that congress, he said, would you trust somebody who says nothing will go wrong? Or would you trust somebody who says, listen, this is an incredible, challenging job to get things right. So there might things go wrong. And when things go wrong, we know what to do. We are in control. We have the information. Yeah. We can pin it down to the Monday morning production or to the Wednesday afternoon production. And because we can, we are insured. In fact, we have even our recall advertisements ready in 21 languages. This is the contract with the call center that we have. And this reflects in 1.5% of the product cost that we charge you. So now I tell you, who will you trust more?
Yeah.
I think the last one. And when people ask us what should you do first when you start to do working on product compliance for non-food consumer goods very seriously, think about the 2 or 3 slides that you want to make explaining to the world what you do about that. So it's part of your business. Think about it, what you are proud to say. And if you sell 26 million lamps, I tell you, there will be some lamps of those 26 that will not comply. Yeah. And
all right. Well, yeah. Please continue.
Yeah, I think we are always so nervous about that reality. But why?
Yeah. Yeah. If you do the groundwork and cover your own back and do the best you can, basically, then you should be quite okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Caspar, thank you so much for visiting the podcast. I think we covered a lot of ground today, having given the listeners some good advice along the way. Yeah, some nuggets.
I like that word. Yeah. Yeah, they're free.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Well, any last words before finishing up?
Well, we had a session with some QA managers for the Global Sources events in Hong Kong. They also asked us, how do you see the world in the next 3 to 6 months? Do you think that will be picking up with trade shows and travel? No. No way. But I look at myself and I'm still buying all kind of goods. People have still money to spend and they might not go on holiday, but they still buy products and they're still, your consumer is still there. Keep taking care of them. Adapt the new normal in that sense and accept it that it's like that. Start to find new ways to build trust in 2 ways. There are many innovative factories in the Far East as well. If there's 100,000 in the Shenzhen Dongguan area, Robert, I bet you there's a couple of thousand that are fantastic. That will be incredible, innovative, and able to surprise you with good products and also with support on the product compliance. The thing is to find them and match them with your customer, and that should be fun to do. So stay healthy and get your energy from things that work out well, and shake off those that are not doing well.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for those the last few nuggets. We'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, Caspar, for joining.
You're welcome.
And we'll talk soon again.
We
Thank
snakken.
you. Bye.